Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Garry is somehow the co-main event for UFC 310, and I generally don't get it. This is easily the most marketable fight on the card, and let's be real, anyone buying the pay-per-view or attending this event is doing it to see this fight, because nobody's paying much attention to the actual main event, which is Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. And I mean, sure, it's a great matchup, but let's be honest, hardcore fans and casual viewers alike see Shavkat versus Garry as the real headliner. That's the fight everyone's talking about, so it's baffling why it's not the one that's closing the show. Some people might argue that it's because there's no title on the line, but honestly, that's just nonsense. Not every pay-per-view needs a championship fight to headline. I actually think the fight like this one, Shavkat versus Garry, are big enough to carry this card on its own. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not going to suddenly make this pay-per-view some record-breaking event, but a fight like this is more capable of being the main event. Think about it. Both fighters are undefeated, there's real hype around them, and it's a matchup people are generally excited for. It's a big deal, title or not. Anyways, this fight is shaping up to be a real spectacle, and honestly, it's a tough one to confidently pick a winner here because both fighters are incredibly skilled. If you check out predictions online, a lot of people seem to be calling for a dominant win by Shavkat, but let's be real, it's not going to be as simple as a walk in the park. Ian Garry is no pushover. The guy is sharp, focused, and a legit fighter. Neither Shavkat nor Ian has faced an opponent quite at this level of skill before, and that's what makes this matchup so intriguing. If I'm being completely honest, I think we're all in for an all-out war, a barn burner of a fight that's going to keep everyone on the edge of their seat, because I think Shavkat's going to have a tough time in this matchup. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think he's going to win. He's my pick for this fight. But if we're going to talk about pure striking, Ian Garry is definitely the better fighter. Shavkat boxing has some holes, he doesn't move his head much, and his defense isn't the best, which we saw in the Jeff Neal fight. And this is why Ian Garry definitely has a real shot here, not just a lucky punch kind of shot either. But let's be real, the fact that 88% of people are picking Shavkat shows how much the MMA community isn't exactly rooting for Ian. Neither of these guys have fought anyone in the top 5 yet, so this fight is a big test for both of them. It's a whole new level when you step up to the elite of the division. Honestly, I'm leaning towards Shavkat. His overall skills set just feel like a little more polished right now. That said, if Ian pulls it off, it could be a huge moment for his career. So here's the deal. Ian Garry actually has some tools that can give Shavkat Rakhmonov some real problems. First of all, it's Ian's footwork. A lot of people love to say, oh, he's just running away, but nah, that's one of his best weapons. He knows how to move, circle, and stay out of danger, which is something Shavkat hasn't really dealt with in the UFC. Shavkat thrives when he traps guys against the cage, and if Ian can avoid getting cornered, it's gonna force Shavkat to work a lot harder to create his usual opportunities. On top of that, Ian's striking is sneaky versatile. He's great at mixing it up, low kicks, body shots, head kicks, you name it. And here's the kicker, Shavkat stands super tall, which leaves him wide open for head kicks. I could totally see Ian setting that up, especially if he keeps Shavkat guessing with straights and jabs. Plus, Shavkat has shown in the past that he's a little vulnerable to counters when he commits to his shots. If Ian times it right, he can land something big like an overhand or even a sneaky head kick and catch Shavkat slipping. And let's just say it how it is, man. Shavkat Rakhmonov is pretty hittable, his offense is solid, no doubt about it, but his defense leaves some openings. Now, I'm not saying that Ian's gonna win, but he's got the tools to give Shavkat his toughest fight yet. If Ian can stay disciplined, stick and move, and avoid getting sucked into Shavkat's game, he's got a real chance to make this a lot more interesting than people expect. Because Ian's been putting in the work, traveling all over the world to level up his game. He trained at Chu Box for Jiu-Jitsu, and we saw how much his grappling improved in his fight against MVP. Sure, MVP isn't exactly known for his grappling, but Ian showed that he's becoming more well-rounded. He added layers to his arsenal, and that's a great sign. Now he's in Thailand, sharpening his striking. The guy's doing everything right, and honestly, I think he's gonna be a big name for a long time. I really believe that Ian's gonna have his moments in this fight and show what he's capable of. I know people have been critical of his last performances, calling them boring or lackluster, but something about this matchup feels different. I've got a gut feeling that this fight is gonna be an exciting one. Now let's talk about Shavkat, because let's be honest, the dude's a killer. If I'm Shavkat, the last thing I'm doing is rushing in like a madman. Ian loves when guys overcommit because it gives them an easy counter. Shavkat needs to play it smart though, mixing in the pressure with some distance control and force Ian to make mistakes. But where Shavkat can really shine is in the clinch. His elbows are straight up weapons, and we all seen how he shredded Chef Neil with those. Add in his head positioning and the dirty boxing, and Shavkat can absolutely wear Ian down in close range. And here's the thing, Ian Garry is mobile, technical striker who likes to fight on the back foot, using his range and his movement to pick his opponents apart. But like most fighters who rely on their movement, he sometimes ends up backed up against the cage. When this does happen, instead of freaking out or swinging wildly, he'll usually clinch to reset and get back into control. The thing is, fighters who are good at cutting off the cage or have a strong clinch game could give him problems if they keep him stuck there. And Shavkat, he's got solid footwork and he's an absolute beast in the clinch. This could be a big advantage for Shavkat in this fight. I believe this is going to be a huge advantage for Shavkat in this fight. And then there's the ground game. Shavkat's trips aren't the best, but they are effective. And once he gets you down, it's basically survival mode. His top control is so technical, it's not just about holding you down, he's consistently working for submissions and dropping bombs. Ian would be in some serious trouble if Shavkat gets him down to the mat. Now, the tricky part though is actually getting Ian down in the mat. Ian's movement could make it harder for Shavkat to close the distance and set up his takedowns. But if he manages it, that's probably the beginning of the end for Ian. So yeah, this fight comes down to who can impose their style. Ian's got the movement, striking variety, and counters to frustrate Shavkat. But Shavkat has the clinch, ground game, and sheer toughness to drag Ian into deep waters. Either way, this is going to be a hell of a fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is Shavkat's hardest test yet. I'm leaning towards Shavkat Rakhmonov in this matchup, and the main reason is Ian Garry lacks knockout power. I truly believe the only reliable way to stop someone like Shavkat is to have the kind of power that can put him away, because he can fight like a relentless zombie, consistently pressuring forward. We saw this when he fought Jeff Neal. Even when Shavkat was in trouble during exchanges, he was able to recover and still be dangerous. Shavkat simply has more tools to win this fight, while Ian might have a slight edge in pure striking. People often forget that this is MMA. Shavkat has a lot in his arsenal, whether it's striking, grappling, clinch work, or ground control. All those give him a huge big advantage over this 5-round fight, and I believe this is what's going to help him win. Ian might be able to outpoint Shavkat early, but 25 minutes is a long time, especially without the power to finish the fight. And here's how I see it playing out. I think Ian Garry will have a strong start in the first round, using his movement and striking to outpoint Shavkat early on. He's likely to stay on the outside, picking his shots and keeping things technical, but after that I see Shavkat just starting to adjust. He's smart and has a way of figuring out opponents as the fight goes on. Once Shavkat starts closing the distance and forcing the fight into the clinch, and that's where things can shift. He's dangerous in close quarters with his elbows, knees, and ability to make the fight dirty and physical. I think this is where Shavkat will start taking over, wearing Ian down and imposing his will. It's gonna come down to whether Ian can keep his range or if Shavkat can drag him into this kind of fight. But I guess we'll find out this Saturday. But anyways guys, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.